Young Master Chun, I was wrong. Please, look at me. I'm not even a complete man anymore. Just spare me. I sat on the priceless antique Zetenwood chair, pouring myself a cup of freshly brewed Hong Pao tea from a masterfully crafted Yixing clay teapot. I watched the man kneeling before me, bashing his head repeatedly against the floor. His body, covered in old scars, trembled violently with fear. His forehead was already a bloody mess, yet the thump, thump, thump of his kowtowing echoed clearly. Just as he looked about to pass out, I rose and walked over. Grabbing his chin, I forced his head up. Young Master Chun, I truly know I was wrong. I'm useless now and nobody... Just let me go like I'm nothing. The moment the words left his mouth, a burly bodyguard standing nearby sent him flying several meters with a vicious kick. Watch your filthy mouth. Our young master doesn't concern himself with filth like you. I glanced at the bodyguard. Something felt slightly off, but I didn't say anything. The man writhed in pain on the floor for a long moment before slowly crawling back, proactively placing his chin back in my hand. Looking at the face that used to be such a delicate, pretty boy, now ruined beyond recognition, a satisfied smile touched my lips. Spare you? The woman I grew up with, my childhood sweetheart. We were supposed to walk down the aisle together. But because of you, we're like strangers now. Give me one reason why I should spare you. I paused. I'll let you go. For today. But we'll have plenty of fun later when I think of new ways to play. I released his chin, wiping the blood that had smeared onto my fingers onto his clothes. Standing up, I waved dismissively, signaling the bodyguards to drag him away. The man's heart-wrenching screams grew fainter and fainter until they disappeared completely. The bodyguard who had kicked him earlier approached. Young master, what if he calls the police? The police? Report what? He came here uninvited, knelt of his own free will, and kowtowed until he bled. Besides you kicking him once, nobody else laid a finger on him. Even if he reports it, the most they can do is detain you for half a month. When the time comes, I'll have people make sure you're well taken care of, good food, good drink. With that, I turned and walked back into the room. Behind me, the bodyguard's simple, earnest voice sounded, Thank you, young master. Son Wanyi, from the Sun family, and I had known each other practically since we could remember. Our families were close, friends since our grandfather's generation, with deep ties between our companies. We were betrothed before we were even born. To foster our relationship, I was sent to live with the Sun family when I started elementary school. The Suns reasoned that since their daughter would eventually marry into the Chun family, it was only right that their future son-in-law live with them beforehand. Living with son Wanyi, I found father-son exceedingly strict, truly raising me as his future son-in-law. And letting your future parents-in-law raise you? That really does produce a well-behaved child. I wasn't allowed to touch anything improper. Life revolved around studying, mastering various forms of etiquette, and cultivating the hobbies expected of the wealthy elite. Beyond that, I was constantly instilled with the belief that men were naturally meant to cherish and pamper women, that women were meant to be coaxed and cared for. And honestly, I did just that. It felt less like I was there to cultivate a relationship and more like I was her devoted attendant. I genuinely treated her well, looking after her in every possible way. She was incredibly good to me, too. Whenever she had something nice, I was the first person she thought of. Her favorite thing to do, ever since we were little, was to sneak into my room late at night when everything was quiet. She'd curl up against me, dreaming aloud about all the things I would do for her after we were married. When we were kids, she'd tell me that after we got married, I'd let her eat all the snacks her parents didn't allow. She could watch her favorite cartoons for as long as she wanted. I promised to buy her lots and lots of pretty clothes, even though she already had quite a few. During our teens, she'd imagine our first time, whispering that I'd have to be gentle because she was scared of the pain. If we had kids, two at most, a boy and a girl would be perfect. The boy would be tall and handsome like me, the girl gentle and beautiful like her. Just as I'd even picked out names for our future children, a transfer student named Li Yang arrived at school. He was a boy who spent more time on makeup than most girls, with a slim, well-proportioned figure and skin as fair as snow, so flawless it looked like you could break it just by breathing on it. He took better care of himself than most girls, which might be why there was always a flock of them around him, asking for his skincare secrets. The most unbearable thing was that, even in high school, he still talked like a little kid. If he saw something he wanted to eat, he'd whine playfully at whoever was nearby, "I want a peachy." The look on his face and his mannerisms were enough to make any guy want to gag. Yet somehow, he fit right in with the girls. His naturally feminine looks and style, combined with his utter shamelessness and that mouth that never stopped chattering, quickly made him besties with son Wanyi and her circle of friends. They talked about everything. Once, I walked past them and overheard Li Yong discussing which brand of sanitary pads had the best leak protection. What I never expected was how much impact this character would have on my life. Because Sun Wanyi was the school beauty, the prettiest girl around, Li Yong naturally stuck closest to her. One day after school, we were walking hand in hand towards a car at the school gate, just like usual. Suddenly, someone forcefully pulled us apart from behind. I looked back, it was Li Yong. After separating us, he casually grabbed Sun Wanyi's hand as if nothing had happened and started chatting with her. Wanyi, my electric bike is out of juice today. Can I get a ride home with you? Before Sun Wanyi could even answer, Li Yong stumbled and went sprawling with a faceplant. Get your paws off her. Her boyfriend isn't dead yet. I roared, planting a hard kick squarely on his backside. As the starting center for the school's basketball team, I put my full strength into it, and he immediately started bawling his eyes out. Sun Wanyi, aren't you going to do something about your boyfriend? He's bullying your best sister. If you don't stick up for me, we're done. Li Yong scrambled up, hands on his hips, looking for all the world like a complete shrew. Sun Wanyi rushed over, quickly brushing the dust off his clothes. Yin Feng, Li Yong is one of my sisters. Everyone in our class knows what he's like. Are you really going to get jealous over this? She shot me an exasperated look, rolling her eyes. All right. I already told him off. Let's just take you home first today, okay? Sun Wanyi spoke to him gently, like coaxing a child. Fine, I'll let it slide this time, for my sister's sake. Li Yong sniffed, then instinctively reached for her hand again. I just cleared my throat loudly. Ahem. He flinched and snatched his hand back, shot me a nasty glare, and then climbed into the back seat with Sun Wanyi. Left with no choice, I got into the front passenger seat. Back home, Sun Wanyi tried to soothe me. Li Yong isn't like other guys, Yin Feng. He doesn't like girls, and none of us girls see him as a boy. Can you please just stop giving him such a hard time? She pleaded, grabbing both my hands and shaking them playfully. You're just too naive, she casually replied. If he isn't into girls, why is he always hanging out with them? Look at how he acts. If any guy gets even a little close to you girls, he immediately gets all snarky and tries to drive them away. Sometimes he even pushes people around, acting like you all belong to him. She reassured me that I was the one she wanted to spend her life with. Hearing that made me feel a bit better. Whenever I got angry, Sun Wanyi could always calm me down within 5 minutes, but I could never bear to make her angry. But I never expected that this was just the beginning. The next day at school, I noticed Li Yong looking at me strangely. Anyway, he always gives the boyfriends of the girls in that group the death glare, so I didn't pay much attention. Who knew that at lunchtime, he'd come over carrying a few small dishes of free pickles and sit down opposite me. I saw him approach, but he didn't even glance at me, just sat down facing me. He calmly picked up the nearby vinegar and chili oil containers and poured the entire contents onto his own plate. I watched him, confused, wondering how he planned to eat a plate full of intensely spicy, overly sour, and salty pickles. A sinister smile spread across his face as he held up his fingers and quietly counted under his breath. 1, 2, 3. Li Yong, so here you are. Didn't we agree to eat together? Why did you come ahead? Just as the three left Li Yang's lips, Sun Wanyi's voice sounded from behind him. Yin Feng is here too. Perfect, let's all eat together. With that, Sun Wanyi skipped over and sat down next to me. Sniffle. Sob. What's that noise? Did someone leave a kettle boiling? I followed the sound and saw it was Li Yong sitting opposite me. In just those few seconds, he had burst into tears, his face streaming. Sun Wanyi noticed too, put down her tray, and hurried over. What's wrong, Yang Yang? Who bullied you? Good grief, hearing her call him Yang Yang gave me goosebumps even in the middle of summer. Li Yong looked incredibly wronged and choked out between sobs. Wanyi, I saw Yin Feng here, and just wanted to explain yesterday's misunderstanding. He said, if I could eat all this food with chili oil and vinegar, he'd forgive me. Listening to his pitiful sobbing, I almost felt like it was my fault. Before anyone else could react, Li Yong suddenly started shoveling the food into his mouth with his chopsticks. As long as you forgive me and don't misunderstand, Wanyi, I'll do anything. She's my best friend in the whole world. My bestie. Oh, it finally clicked. I've been framed. This kind of bullshit plot you only see on TV was happening right in front of me. Clear as day. I didn't panic because I trusted Sun Wanyi would believe me. We grew up together. She knew my character. I didn't do it. He did this himself to frame me. I put down my chopsticks and looked squarely at Sun Wanyi, my voice perfectly calm. There was a flicker of anger in her eyes as she looked at me, but then she quickly reached out to stop Li Yong. Don't eat that. Are you trying to kill yourself with all that chili? My life isn't worth much. You're all young masters and misses. You don't need to pay any mind to me. Even though he said that, son Wanyi easily snatched the tray from his hands. Didn't I tell you to stop eating these unhealthy pickled vegetables? Son Wanyi chided him with concern, wiping his face with a wet tissue. The cafeteria food is so expensive. How could I bear to spend the money? Don't worry. I've gone by like this for over 10 years. From now on, just eat with us girls. Come on, I'll get you another serving today. Saying this, she pulled Li Yang along to get food, completely ignoring me as if I were just another object in the cafeteria. I looked down at the half-eaten meal I'd chosen, my favorite dishes, but suddenly I had no appetite at all. I felt dazed and out of it all afternoon. Later, Sun Wanyi called me, saying one of her friends was having a birthday. She told me to go home first and that she'd have a driver pick her up later. But before, whenever her friends had a birthday or any gathering, she always took me with her. She'd spend the whole time getting my favorite fruits, peeling shrimp and crab for me. She'd even get upset if someone tried to pressure me into drinking. But this time, she actually told me to go home first. When I got home, I found the answer on one of her friend's social media feeds. In the video, a dozen or so girls were gathered around Li Yang. He was wearing a birthday hat, hands clasped, eyes closed making a wish, and then they all blew out the candles on a huge cake in front of him. That was the first time I truly wondered if this woman, who I'd always thought of as mine, and I could actually stay together. I went to bed unusually early that night, but my eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling. Sleep was impossible. Around 11:30 at night, the doorknob turned, and Sun Wanyi tiptoed in. Suddenly, she leaped onto me, her beautiful big eyes locking with mine. Oomph. Trying to fool me by pretending to be asleep? Don't think I don't know you can't fall asleep unless I tuck you in. It's late. We have school tomorrow. Go get some sleep. Perhaps sensing I wasn't as happy to see her as usual, my tone was very cold. The smile vanished from her face. Looking serious, she touched my forehead with her hand. You don't have a fever. Yin Feng, you aren't still angry about lunchtime, are you? Seriously, there's no need to pick on Li Yang. We're just close friends, that's all. He's not into women, and his family struggles financially. Us girls are just used to helping him out a bit. Besides, being a guy, he's stronger than us and helps us out plenty too. Son Wanyi, you've always been smart. If he says he doesn't like women, why is he always hanging around you girls? If he likes men, why is he so cold towards other guys? You say his family is poor? This is an elite school. The annual fees are more than any ordinary family could afford. And his skin is better maintained than most women's. If his family is struggling, how would he have spare money for skincare? Oh, so you really are still mad about lunchtime. In your favorite Stephen Chow movie, CJ7, didn't the poor kid go to an elite school too? As for his good skin, he says he was born with it, never had any treatments. We're actually all quite jealous. Let's put that aside for now. Do you think I was picking on him at lunch today? And whose birthday were you celebrating tonight? I stared at her seriously. This wasn't something we could just laugh off. You're my boyfriend, so of course, I believed you at the time. I just felt really sorry for Li Yang. Tonight, everyone was celebrating his birthday. I felt like you two don't really get along, so I didn't invite you. Didn't he just celebrate his birthday last month? Why is he celebrating again? How many times was he born? Last month was his solar calendar birthday. This month is his lunar calendar birthday. Wow, you treat him really well. Have you ever celebrated 2 birthdays for your boyfriend? With that, I turned over and pulled the pillow over my head, refusing to listen anymore. She scoffed. Then I heard the rustling sound of clothes coming off. A moment later, my blanket was pulled back, and Sun Wanyi slid into bed beside me. She wrapped her arms around me, blowing warm air into my ear, making me ticklish. All right, fine, I was wrong, okay? I won't go back to my room tonight. I'll stay and keep you company as an apology. I suddenly rolled over, pretending to unhook her bra. Now that's more like it. Okay, I forgive you. Slap, slap. She gently pushed my hand away. What are you thinking? I'm just going to cuddle you to sleep. We have to wait until marriage for that. Then how about this? No. This. No. Stop it. I already said no. Oh, you're biting me now. Although nothing substantial happened that night, neither of us got much sleep. During this time, Sun Wanyi deliberately arranged things so Li Yang and I wouldn't run into each other, so things were peaceful between us. That is, until the annual provincial university basketball tournament hosted by the school. As the team's starting center, I worked well with my teammates, and we triumphantly stormed our way into the finals. Our opponents in the finals were the 5-time defending champions, but this time, 2 of their key players were out. One had transferred, and the other was injured. Meanwhile, we were riding a wave of decisive victories, our morale sky high, our roster complete, and everyone in top form. This was the closest we'd ever been to the championship, and even the school administration had high hopes for us. And indeed, Right from the start of the game, we quickly pulled ahead by double digits. Our confidence grew with every play, while their teamwork was shaky, leading to repeated mistakes. By halftime, we were leading by 15 points. At this rate, the championship trophy was practically ours for the taking. During the halftime break, Wanyi, the cheerleading captain, came to our locker room to congratulate me. Yin Feng, you guys are playing amazing today. If you win the championship, how about I grant you one wish? Wanyi looked at me with pure adoration. I put my arm around her waist and whispered in her ear, "Get cleaned up and wait for me tonight." Then I rejoined my teammates and headed back onto the court. Behind me, Wanyi blushed furiously, her eyes filled with a mix of excitement and anticipation. We maintained our lead in the second half, but before long, I noticed Liang had shown up courtside at some point. I hadn't seen him in a long time. Suddenly, I had a bad feeling. Just then, he looked over at me. Our eyes met, and I saw that look in his eyes again. "Yin Feng, watch out." The words had barely left my teammate's mouth when the basketball slammed hard into my face. I gave a quick wave, and my teammates came over to check on me. I signaled I was fine, and we could keep playing. When the game restarted, my eyes kept drifting towards the sidelines, making it impossible to concentrate. Just as I caught the ball, ready to drive past my defender, a sudden gasp came from the sidelines. I looked over and saw Liang sitting on the ground, clutching his leg. Wanyi and her friends rushed over to see what was wrong. In that instant, I froze. The ball was stolen, and the other team scored on a fast break. Liang shot me a defiant look. Then, his hand slowly crept around Wanyi's waist, pulling her closer. He puckered his lips, leaning slowly toward her face. "Let her go. Stop it," I roared. Young and hot-headed, I saw red. I sprinted to the sidelines as fast as I could and kicked Liang square in the face. Losing control, I followed up with a frenzy of punches and kicks. It took players from both teams swarming in to finally pull us apart. I was ejected for fighting, and Liang ended up in the hospital. The victory that should have been ours slipped away. They turned the game around and won by a single point. Even though the coach and my teammates didn't blame me, the school still issued a campus-wide disciplinary notice. On the school forums, I was treated like a villain, dragged through the mud by everyone. The guilt weighed heavily on me. I holed up for days, skipping school and avoiding social media and the internet entirely. I just slept, tried to shut out the world. On the morning of the third day, Wanyi found me. The moment she saw me, you could visibly see her shoulders drop in relief. She gently cupped my face, unshaven and unkempt from the past few days. In her hands, tears welling up in her eyes with heartache. "Do you have any idea how worried we were? We couldn't find you or contact you at all. I've already talked to Liang, smoothed things over. He's not going to the police. Can we just go home now, please?" Her first words weren't blame, just pure concern and comfort. All the pent-up frustration and sense of injustice from the past few days burst out of me like a broken dam. Me, a guy nearly 6'3", just collapsed against her, sobbing uncontrollably. Okay, she soothed. "It's all over now. I know you don't like him. I promise I'll keep my distance from now on, okay?" I nodded, and we went home. Later, I asked her, "Why didn't you do anything when Liang had his arm around your waist and was leaning in to kiss you?" She stared at me, completely baffled. "What are you talking about?" she asked. Liang never put his arm around my waist, and he definitely didn't try to kiss me. That's when I knew Liang had tricked me again. Luckily, college ended soon after that. Liang tried to undermine me a few more times before then, but each time, Wanyi ended up believing my side of the story. Just when I thought graduation meant we'd finally be rid of Liang, Wanyi took a position at her family's company and hired him. We had a massive argument when I found out. But this time, she refused to back down, insisting that Liang would stay at the company. Furious, I stormed back to my place and cut off contact for a whole month. Both our parents tried to intervene, but I wouldn't budge. In the end, it was Wanyi who broke the silence. She came to my house and asked me to get engaged. That's how we finally reconciled. For the engagement party, our families invited a lot of people, relatives, friends, business associates. The guest list was full of local prominent figures. The engagement ceremony started off perfectly. We made a striking couple. Me, tall and handsome. Her, beautiful and elegant. I was the center of attention, like the moon surrounded by stars, accepting everyone's well wishes. But the moment I saw Liang appear, my smile froze. Just seeing him gives me a Pavlovian sense of dread now. I had a premonition something bad would happen today. Wanyi noticed my displeasure and squeezed my hand gently. "Yin Feng, I didn't invite him. He came on his own. If you don't like it, I'll send him away right now." I didn't speak, just nodded. I really didn't want to see him. She went over, and the two talked for quite a while. Li Yang's expressions were incredibly dramatic, one moment wiping away tears, the next stomping his foot and turning away in a childish huff. When Sun Wanyi returned, she shook her head helplessly. Yin Feng. I talked to him, but he absolutely refuses to leave. He insists on witnessing his best friend's moment of happiness. I really felt bad forcing him. Maybe you could just tolerate it? I nodded stiffly. When I'm upset, I don't feel like saying a word. An engagement should be a joyous event, but now I was just simmering with anger. If I can't afford to provoke him, surely I can avoid him. The ceremony was mostly over. Worst case, I just keep my distance. It wasn't like he could chase me down, right? But I was too naive. Ever since Liang arrived, he kept finding excuses to call Sun Wanyi over to his side. Left to my own devices, I wandered aimlessly through the venue, exchanging brief pleasantries with acquaintances. Without realizing it, I found myself next to the giant champagne tower, admiring it out of sheer boredom. Yin Feng, long time no see. The voice behind me sent a chill down my spine. Without even turning my head, I bolted. Having been burned by him so many times, my instinct screamed at me. Get away from that voice now. I'd barely taken 2 steps when I heard the deafening crash of shattering glass behind me. Whipping around, I saw the towering, mountain-like champagne display collapse thunderously, completely burying Liang beneath the cascade of glass and bubbly liquid. The scene instantly dissolved into chaos. By the time they managed to pull him out, he looked half dead, covered in cuts and bruises. Sun Wanyi stormed over, her face contorted with rage, and slapped me hard across the cheek. I never imagined you could be so vicious. You always picked on Liang before, but it was just petty squabbles, so I turned a blind eye. This time you've gone too far. You could have killed him. Do you realize that? I had never seen Sun Wanyi so furious. She had always been the picture of gentle composure around me. Clutching my stinging, numbed cheek, I stammered. He crashed into it himself. It had nothing to do with me. Are you going to say Li Yang framed you again? Would he risk his own life just to frame you? If you didn't push him, then why did you run? Damn it, there was no way to explain. Cat got your tongue? I must have been blind to have ever fallen for you, even thinking about marrying you and having your children. Then she spun around and announced loudly to everyone that she was breaking off our engagement, effective immediately. From now on, we would go our separate ways, our lives entirely separate. With that, she directed people to carry Li Yang away to the hospital. I don't even remember how I got out of there. Although the guests didn't say anything, likely out of respect for my parents, the judgment in their eyes spoke volumes. People pushed to extreme anger can be terrifying, especially someone like me, someone with money, connections, and a brain that works. That very night, I began plotting my revenge. I never took you seriously before, Liang. That's the only reason you were allowed to jump around and cause trouble in front of me for so long. If I ever got truly serious, he wouldn't stand a chance. Although Liang was covered in injuries, they weren't severe, and he was discharged from the hospital after just a few days. I heard the news and made sure to position myself on his usual route. The moment I was sure he saw me, I turned as if to leave. Predictably, he called out my name and hurried after me. Yin Feng, why turn away the moment you see me? I was worried you might die from your accident this time, and I'd get blamed again. Don't worry, I won't need to frame you anymore. While I was in the hospital, Wanyi nursed me day and night. She told me she's already broken off her engagement with you. It's over between you two, isn't it? Soon, she'll be my woman, and her family's business empire will be mine too. Ha ha ha. So that was your goal all along? You framed me again and again just to get close to her. I shouted, feigning anguish. If you're going to put on a show, you have to go all the way. By turning to leave when I saw him, I made him think I was unprepared, lowering his guard. Now, seeing my pained expression, he was bound to rub salt in the wound. Sure enough, with unconcealed glee, he recounted everything he'd done over the years, piece by piece. Every detail was captured by the pinhole camera I was wearing. I don't believe Wanyi could fall for you. I challenged. Call her right now. Let's see if she drops everything to come here. Liang raised an eyebrow. Is that supposed to be difficult? I'll call her right now. He actually dialed Sun Wanyi's number, and she agreed to come over. Wanyi said she'll be here in 10 minutes. What are you doing? He hung up the phone and saw I put on white gloves and pulled out an extendable baton. Then, I gave him the same smile he always wore right before he framed me. By the time Sun Wanyi arrived, Liang was sprawled on the ground, his legs clearly broken. Yin Feng, what are you doing? Are you trying to kill him? She screamed at me, but didn't stop running towards Liang to check his injuries. Wanyi, no matter what you say this time, call the police. Get him arrested. He used this very baton to break my legs. Liang cried, thrusting the baton towards her. Yang, don't be impulsive. Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. Let's. Hello. Is this the police station? Yes. I need to report a crime. While the two of them were arguing about whether to call the police, I had already dialed the number. Yin Feng, are you crazy? Do you know what will happen if the police get involved? Sunwon, he let go of Liang and lunged for my phone. I raised my hand, just out of her reach, finished explaining the situation to the police, and hung up. Then I looked at her coldly. Whatever happens to me probably has nothing to do with Miss Sun, does it? Hearing my indifferent tone, her face twitched unnaturally, and the hand she'd raised to grab the phone dropped limply to her sides. Yin Feng, I'm doing this for your own good. You can't go to jail. Your life will be ruined. She moved to hug me, but I dodged aside. Thanks ever so much for your concern, but you'll soon find out exactly how good you've been to me all these years. With that, I ignored her. I didn't speak to her again until the police arrived and took us all down to the station. There, I handed over the pinhole camera I'd been wearing. Only Li Yang's fingerprints were on the retractable baton. After all these years of being wronged, the truth was finally out. The police asked if I wanted to press charges. I said no. It wasn't because I was soft-hearted. My revenge had just begun. How could I let him off so easily by sending him to prison? That would be letting him off too lightly. As I walked out of the police station, Wanyi chased after me. This time, she didn't spare a single glance for Liang, who had collapsed on the ground behind her. Yin Feng, wait for me. I didn't know Liang was that kind of person, and I didn't realize how much you'd suffered. I'm such an idiot. Please, can you forgive me? She blocked my path, threw her arms around me, and buried her head in my chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Forgiveness is irrelevant. We have nothing to do with each other now. My voice was calm, devoid of any emotion, as if I were speaking to a complete stranger. No, you're my boyfriend, my fiancé. Boyfriend? The kind who grew up with you, but believed the words of a classmate you'd only known for 3 years over me, instantly assuming I was at fault? And didn't you already break off our engagement at the ceremony? You utterly humiliated me in front of all our relatives and friends. We're strangers now. No, worse than strangers. Just looking at you makes me sick. Perhaps my words were too harsh. She released her hold on me and stumbled back a few steps, staring at me with a stunned expression. No, I'm not. You can't say that about me. She crumpled to the ground, clutching her hair, her face contorted in pain as she mumbled incoherently. I ignored her, got straight in my car, and drove off. As the saying goes, turning to the dark side makes you 10 times stronger, while redemption weakens you. Ever since I started my revenge, I've become decisive and ruthless in my actions. I employed certain tactics to grow my company, but even as it flourished, I didn't forget to take care of Liang. From that day on, he didn't have a single peaceful day. One moment, a 50-year-old woman would report him for attempted rape. The next, a teenage girl would publicly accuse him of sexual harassment, conveniently right when some good Samaritans were nearby to beat him half to death. Other people's valuables would mysteriously appear in his home. Fake AIDS diagnosis certificates bearing his name were scattered throughout his entire residential complex. Everyone started avoiding him like the plague. Just when he started getting used to this life, I'd ramp things up. One time, while he was sleeping at home, several large men kicked down his door, put a hood over his head, and dragged him to a hospital. He was anesthetized and forced to undergo gender reassignment surgery. I watched the video on my phone. Liang looking down at his own body and letting out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered, and smiled with satisfaction. He went to the police, but multiple acquaintances testified that gender reassignment had always been his lifelong dream. The hospital even produced a consent form with his forged signature. Most importantly, everyone already knew him as a scheming, manipulative backstabber who would frame others without hesitation. He finally broke down. He came running to me, completely crazed, begging for mercy. I humiliated him thoroughly before kicking him out. But his miserable life went on. After learning I had been wrongly accused, Wanyi started sticking to me like glue, impossible to shake off. She showered me with gifts, learned to cook for me, and whenever I spoke to another woman, even just a few words, she would immediately step forward and introduce herself as my fiancé. I couldn't make too much of a scene in public, but when I spoke to her privately, she'd either act completely nonchalant or put on a pitiful, wronged expression. The confident, noble young lady I once adored was now practically groveling in the dirt before me. Yet, not only could I not let go of the past, but I disliked this current version of her even more. Finally, one day I couldn't hold back anymore and exploded. It happened at a top-tier private club, during a cocktail party attended by the local elite and socialites. I was engrossed in a lively conversation with a hugely popular female celebrity from the entertainment industry. Suddenly, a fair, slender arm wrapped around mine. I didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. "Hubby, I just want to touch up my makeup and couldn't find you. So here you are. Could you introduce me to this lady?" Son Wanyi, dressed in a custom haute couture gown, was already stunningly beautiful. Her aura and presence completely overshadowed every other female guest present. I'd had enough. I forcefully shook her hand off. My strength was such that she stumbled and fell to the ground. "Who's your hubby? Since when did the great Miss Sun become so casual? We broke up long ago. Can you stop shamelessly clinging to me like this? This desperate, cheap act of yours disgusts me." With that, I splashed the red wine from my glass on her face. Then I just stood there, looking down at her, my eyes filled with amusement, as if seeing myself at our engagement ceremony back then. To my surprise, she calmly stood up, naturally took the towel offered by a staff member, and wiped her face clean. Then, ignoring the strange looks from everyone around, she smiled at me. "Yin Feng, honestly, I'm not angry about this at all. You can be mad at me, you can hate me, but I can't stand you ignoring me. If this helps you vent, you can continue." The moment she finished speaking, I slapped her across the face. The force was so great that she staggered back several steps before regaining her footing. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, she walked back towards me. "If you're still not satisfied, hit me again." Looking at her slightly swollen cheek and her resolute gaze, I somehow felt a flicker of panic in my heart. Muttering, "Crazy bitch," I made a clumsy escape. After that day, Sun Wanyi stopped pestering me constantly. I also felt I had gone too far. But apologizing to her? Absolutely impossible. Thinking back to her expression that day always left me feeling uneasy. Since that was the case, Liang would have to bear the brunt of it. She'd had a string of bad luck recently, getting hit by a car one day, food poisoning the next. Even the estrogen injections she needed periodically were mistakenly swapped for testosterone by the doctor. Having already adapted to presenting as a woman, she grew thick stubble overnight. She looked like a monster now. Honestly, her adaptability was quite strong. But for every measure of good, evil finds a way to surpass it. I always found ways to make her break down. Fortunately, good news kept coming from the company during this period, and my mood gradually improved. Today was the day for signing a contract with a major client from the Middle East. The signing went smoothly. Just as I exited the company building, before I could even get into my car, I heard hurried footsteps rushing towards me from behind. Before I could turn, a familiar embrace pulled me close. Then came a woman's muffled groan. When I saw the situation clearly, my jaw dropped in shock. Sun Wanyi was pressed against me. Behind her stood Liang, her face contorted with rage, holding a sharp knife. The force of the thrust had pierced straight through Sun Wanyi's shoulder. When Liang tried to pull the knife out to strike again, it got stuck on the bone. It was Sun Wanyi's pain cries that snapped me back to reality. I pinned Liang to the ground as easily as holding down a chick. After handing her over to security, I quickly rushed Sun Wanyi to the hospital. Waiting outside the operating room, I truly experienced what it felt like for days to crawl by like years. I kept murmuring, "She'll be okay. She'll be okay." I even regretted what I had done to her that day. As long as she came out safely, I was willing to let her pay me back tenfold, 100-fold. Just as I was consumed by agony, the light above the operating room door went out. Soon after, the doctors wheeled Sun Wanyi out. The injury is serious, but not fatal. The broken knife tip inside her has been removed. Now she just needs rest. Due to excessive blood loss, her face was terrifyingly pale, but she still managed a comforting smile when she saw me. After thanking the doctors, I took over pushing the gurney and wheeled her to her room. "Why were you so foolish? Didn't you think about the consequences? If something happened to you, how could I possibly explain it to your aunt and uncle? When I noticed she was going to hurt you, there was no time to think. It was just instinct. Besides, it's all because I was silly enough to treat her like my best friend back then. Otherwise, you wouldn't have. Don't dwell on it. You've lost a lot of blood. The doctor said you need to replenish your strength. What do you want to eat? I'll go buy it for you. I want to eat something you cooked yourself. It's been so long." Although she couldn't move much, she used her eyes to plead charmingly. Her parents arrived soon after. I went back home and made her a few light but nourishing dishes. I stayed by her side in the hospital for over a month, never leaving until she was finally discharged. She went back to her old ways, always finding excuses to see me, and I no longer ignored her. Seeing our state, both sets of parents were naturally overjoyed, and the business cooperation between our two families grew even closer. Soon, we received news. Liang had committed suicide in the detention center. Because I had pulled strings to prevent her from going to prison, even having son Wanyi issue a letter of forgiveness. When Liang learned she was to be released without charge, she felt like her world had collapsed. She couldn't bear to return to her previous life for even a day. The police found her hanging from her belt in the detention center one morning. Hearing about her death, I felt no joy of vengeance fulfilled. On the contrary, I felt she had gotten off too easily. A sudden, urgent ringing from my phone interrupted my thoughts. It was son Wanyi. Our families had arranged for us to go abroad to inspect a project, and she had prepared everything for me. I knew this was the family's way of matchmaking us. I didn't know if we would end up together in the future. Who can say what the future holds? Better to just take it one step at a time.